Lads and lasses, pack your Gregs. We're heading 5,000 miles to Azerbaijan as Newcastle United, of course, take on Qarabag in the Champions League playoff knockouts, of course, for a chance to play either Barcelona or Chelsea if we get past this match. And I've got to say, this is no joke. We should not underestimate this side. Yes, they are an Azerbaijan side, and on paper, it probably looks pretty easy of a game, but like I say, we should not underestimate this side. This is a side that this season in the Champions League at home have beaten Copenhagen, beaten Leverkusen, they drew with Chelsea, they've lost narrowly to Ajax. Their away form, they've beat Benfica, they've had competitive defeats against Bilbao and Napoli. They've had a heavy loss, of course, to Liverpool, but even in that game, I watched that, Qarabag were really, really good in that game. So this is a team that we do have to keep an eye on. We can't be going into this game and underestimating them because that is going to cause problems for it. And especially right now at this moment in time, as we, have probably one of the worst injury crises going again, like we've seen in previous seasons. We are without, of course, Bruno. He's not going to be available now until about March or April. So that is a big concern to not have a captain, El Capitan, not in the middle to lead the line forward. So that is, of course, now up to other players like Sandro Tonali, like we're seeing him in the game just gone, of course, leading the line in that midfield, becoming that midfield general. And that is what we need to see. We need to see players like that stepping up and taking the reins and running with it. And other players that aren't going to be available is obviously Emil Kraft, Tino Livramento, Fabian Shaw, Johan Wissa is unlikely as well. However, hopefully he will be fit, and we're waiting on fitness updates as well for the likes of Joe Linton, Lewis Miley and Sven Botman. I've got to say, that's a lot of players right there to be needing in the team, and a lot of players that we are missing in the team, especially Bruno, especially Tino, especially Shaw, Wissa, Miley, Joe Linton and Botman. Them are big ones. No offense, of course, there to the likes of Kraft, but Kraft's really only going to be a backup even if he is fit. Whereas, the likes of Bruno, Tino, Shaw, Joe Linton, Miley and Wissa and Botman are all going to be players that would be in their first team shouts and starting shouts as well for the team going forward. But looking at it, we've got to be careful. We've got to go into this game with the right mentality. And we are going to be playing, like I say, 5,000 miles round trip to Baku for this one against an Azerbaijan side. So it's always going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on temperature-wise as well. There's going to be obviously different climate over there in Azerbaijan, so that's going to be a worry. Obviously the time difference as well, it'll be 9:45 local time there, but 5:45 kickoff here in the UK, and we are playing in a famous ground, the ground named after, of course, the Russian linesman from the 1966 World Cup final. So there is, of course, some history to the stadium as well. But I mean, there's only going to be 2,000 of our fans across there. But obviously, as is the case with every game we go to, it could be just 5 Newcastle fans and it'll sound like 50,000. We are absolutely massive when we're going and supporting the lads, and we, make sure that our voices are heard. And looking at this game, we are going to have to definitely make sure that our voices are heard, because this is going to be a game where, we can't underestimate our opposition that we're up against. Now, saying that, I do think with what we have got at our disposal, we can come away from this game with a pretty decent win. So I am going to go for a competitive result, and I'm going to go for something like Newcastle coming away 4-2 winners here against Qarabag. Get ourselves, 4 goals, or in this case, 2 goals if you take away the 2 that they would score, and bring it back to St James's Park. But it would be nice if we could go there, and thoroughly beat them. But like I say, we shouldn't underestimate them. We shouldn't be, looking at this as an easy walkover game because of the distance and, of course, the factors, that are unknown to it going into this game. Obviously, the injury problems as well. And then we've got the other fixtures around this game as well, because when we come back after this game, we have got to take on Man City at the Etihad. And then, of course, after that Man City game at the Etihad on the 21st of this month, we have to play then Qarabag at St James's on the 24th of this month. And of course, we did get to find out as well last night who we will be facing in the 5th round of the FA Cup. And of course, as expected, we are taking on one of the cartel teams, and it will be, of course, Manchester City, and that tie is to be played at St James's Park over the weekend of March 7th, so around my birthday, of course, on the day probably of my birthday, I'm guessing, which isn't great for me. I really wouldn't want to see Newcastle, getting beaten on my birthday. That's not a good birthday gift for me at all. So hopefully, we can see ourselves beating Man City and getting through. And of course, if you've looked at my social media posts over on Twitter, of course, you will know that I put up a post last night saying that the last time we played Aston Villa and Manchester City in the FA Cup, it ended with Newcastle United winning the FA Cup. So fingers crossed, touch wood, everything like that. That is a good omen. And of course, we see Newcastle lifting the FA Cup come, of course, the end of this season. Till next time, hit like, share, subscribe to the channel, and what's your score prediction down in the comments below. And do you think this game is going to be a tough one, or do you think it's going to be a cake walk forward and we can, get a nice result there in Bakau, and then of course bring the game back to St James's Park and probably play a few youngsters in it if we've got like a massive scoreline in that game, see something like a 6 or 7-0 win against Qarabag. But like I say, let's not underestimate them. Let's just go into it with the right mentality, looking to go there and get the 3 points. Looking to go there and get the win so that we can progress hopefully through to play either Barcelona or Chelsea in the next round of the Champions League, and see how far we can go in this Champions League as well. Till next time, see you all later. However, lads.